Hello everybody and welcome to the DM Living channel. Today I will be showing you how to make a chicken curry. And this is a quick recipe. The first 5 minutes are really the most important, and it's where everything comes together. I have a small to medium sized pot here with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 to 5 cloves, about 4 to 5 pieces of cardamom. Now, what's really important is that these seeds get roasted in the oil so that their natural oils come out and the flavor really starts to seep into the oil. I also add about 1 teaspoon of coriander, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic. In the pot, you can see half of a red onion diced up, 1 cinnamon stick, and 1 star of anise. Now, you can find all of these ingredients in the spice aisle at your grocery store or in the ethnic aisle of your grocery store, depending on where you live. And what's really important here is that you really saute and roast the onions and the garlic and the seasoning and the seeds all in this oil. It really helps the flavor come through, and it helps everything just not taste so raw. It really starts, all the seasoning cooks in here. Here I added about half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. So even though I have the cinnamon stick, I still add the cinnamon powder as well, because that adds a bit more of a punchier cinnamon flavor in there. I also add 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder. I am eyeballing all of these because I've made this curry so many times over the last decade, over a decade now. And my mom is Indian and she used to make chicken curry all the time. It's a staple. So I'm at the stage where I can put it together fairly quickly now. Without thinking too hard. And even if I have some ingredients missing, I kind of know the essentials of what you need in there. I add about 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, and 1 teaspoon of garam masala. Sorry, what I put in there before, I already put coriander. It was 1 teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin, and then 1 teaspoon of garam masala. Garam masala is essentially a blend of a number of different spices. So if you don't have that, that's totally fine. I also add about half a teaspoon of paprika in here as well. The paprika is not spicy, so don't worry about that. If you do want to add heat and, some hot seasoning in here, I would actually add a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper or half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, depending on your taste, or more. Here I'm also adding about half a teaspoon of black pepper as well. Now, I don't add in the cayenne pepper just because of my kids. They are still getting used to spice, and this is a lot of seasoning here. Once in a while, I add like a pinch of cayenne just to kind of test their taste buds a little bit, but today was not one of those days for me. This is something I was really putting together in the morning as a quick lunch for everyone. Now, the next step, once you see that the seasoning and the spices are all roasted, you can see that it's a nice deep brown, but not burnt. I add in all the chicken. This is not a whole lot of chicken. This will probably last us like 2 meals, to be honest. So it's a fairly small amount of curry that I was making. I was just putting it together really quickly with some leftover chicken that I had in the fridge. I toss the chicken around in the seasoning just to get it coated all the way. And I add about I'd say 3/4 of a cup of diced tomatoes. Now, if you don't have a can of diced tomatoes, you can use like 4 tomatoes, 3 or 4 tomatoes chopped up is perfectly fine. Maybe 3 tomatoes chopped up in here. And if you don't have that, if you have crushed tomatoes, you could throw crushed tomatoes in here. If you have tomato paste, you could maybe add like a tablespoon of tomato paste instead. The tomatoes, now it's not, if you don't have tomatoes at all, that's perfectly fine too. I find that tomatoes add a little bit of a sweetness and a depth of flavor to this curry. It also adds some thickness to the gravy as well. If you do crushed tomatoes, you'll notice that the gravy is even thicker versus like diced tomatoes. But this is what I had, so I threw it in. And now you just let these flavors meld all together with the chicken. This is 5 minutes of the video. This is the bulk of the work. Okay, this is the bulk of the work. Now, what I will share with you is that it's just really important to roast those seasonings in the pan before you throw in the chicken or the tomatoes. I add about a cup of water to this, just so that it creates a little bit more of that gravy and nothing sticks to the bottom of the pot. I toss everything in and we cover it up. You saw my kids helping me clean the floor a little bit. I had dropped my spatula and they shared with me how much of a mess I made and that they wanted to help me. So now I'm just taking a little bit of a break. Femi's gonna eat some breakfast while the chicken's cooking. And I check on the chicken every 10 minutes or so. First I had it on medium heat when I was sauteing the seasoning. I then moved the heat to high when I first threw the chicken and the tomatoes in, and I covered the pot just to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil like this, you can turn the heat down to medium or medium high, depending on the power of your stove. What I like to have is a consistent rolling boil like you see here. So as long as it's consistently like a rolling boil, that's what you want. So I have my stove on medium heat right now. I'm just checking to make sure the chicken doesn't stick to the bottom and nothing sticking to the bottom of the pot. Because if it sticks to the bottom of the pot, it's gonna burn. I throw in about a quarter to half a teaspoon of salt in here. I don't throw in a ton of salt because I don't want to oversalt my food by accident. I would rather have too little salt than too much salt. So at the end, when everything comes together, I do a little taste to make sure that I have enough salt in there and the flavors are really popping the way I want them to. So yeah, I just throw a little bit of salt here so that it kind of goes into the chicken, and then I'll taste it at the end to see that there's enough. Cover it back up, leave it for another 10 minutes. Let the chicken really, let that gravy soak into the chicken. Let those seasoning and the spices really get in there. Now we're gonna check it one more time in about 10 minutes. I'm just gonna clear up the area. I still had a bit of a mess on the stove from breakfast. So I'm gonna do the dishes. I think about what to have with this chicken curry. Today I decided I'm gonna have brown rice with this. So I'm putting some brown rice to boil. Our kids love brown rice. I love brown rice. That's all they ever really had, to be honest. Like, that's what I usually make. It has a lower glycemic index, so it's better for you in terms of carbs and sugar, and it also has a higher fiber content. So generally, you can have less of this kind of rice and it'll still keep you full longer, versus I find when I make white rice, like I need to eat a lot more of it to get full faster, and then I get hungrier faster as well. So if you're being health conscious, I would really think about, looking at brown rice as an alternative to white rice. If that's something you're thinking about, it is something that I'm very conscious of. So I throw some brown rice to boil here. You could also have the chicken curry with naan or roti or paratha. Any of those types of sides can work for this. Sometimes people also like to add like a potato or two into the chicken curry, so it helps thicken the gravy and also adds a bit more of those carbs and starches to the chicken curry. Another alternative is you could also add some mixed frozen veggies to your chicken curry as well. That's something that I actually quite often do. I just didn't do it this time because I was in a bit of a rush, but you can certainly add mixed veggies, like frozen mixed veggies or fresh or spinach. You can throw some of that stuff in there. Like, you barely taste the veggies because of the curry flavor. Like, the taste of this curry is it's curry, it's strong, it's overpowering. So if you add a little bit of frozen spinach or some mixed veggies, you're really not going to taste it that much. And it's a great way to add more greens to your diet or to your kids' diets. Now, this is another 10 to 15 minutes later. You can see at this point the chicken's been on the stove for about 40 minutes. You can see that you can see that the chicken is starting to lose some of its fat. The gravy, like there's more gravy in there. That's all from the chicken. I didn't add more water. I'm tasting it to make sure there's enough salt. The chicken's all cooked through. That's the most important part, is you want to make sure that the chicken is completely cooked through. This gravy looks delicious. The tomatoes, you can see that it's starting to really meld into the curry itself. I'm just going to tuck all the chicken drumsticks into the gravy so they continue to seep into the bones. And this is definitely one of those meals that, once you get into a routine of cooking something like this, you can get it together really quickly and it's delicious. You can have some rice, some chicken curry, a little side of yogurt. So good. You could put some yogurt on the side. Delicious. Thank you for joining me today, everyone. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you want to see any other particular recipes. I could do a butter chicken too. I make a really good butter chicken. But thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day.